She died in my arms again tonight. Different face, different name, different life entirely. But the eyes were always the same. And just like every single time before, she looked at me like a complete stranger. Wind through ancient trees, distant wolves. My name is Kale, and I have been alive for 1,243 years. Not because I wanted to be, but because the moon goddess made me a promise and then spent 12 centuries reminding me how cruel a promise can be. She told me my mate was rare, a soul chosen above all others, too powerful for one single lifetime. She would live, she would die, she would come back, and every single time she returned, I would find her first. What the goddess forgot to mention was that my mate would never remember me. Not once. In 43 lives, not once. I have held her as a newborn, watched her take her very first breath, and I have held her at the end, watched her take her very last. I have watched her laugh, fall in love with sunsets, dance in the rain like nobody was watching. I was always watching. Some alphas are broken by battle. I was broken by the same pair of eyes, over and over and over again. Soft city rain, footsteps on wet pavement. I smelled her before I saw her. I always do. Jasmine and rain and something so achingly familiar it felt like being stabbed somewhere soft. She was outside a bookstore, holding more books than any reasonable person should carry, wearing an oversized sweater, humming something quietly to herself, completely unbothered by the rain. And my heart, this ancient, exhausted, nearly hollow thing, lurched forward, like it recognized her before I could stop it. It always does. It never learns. She looked up, and I stopped breathing. Rain, books dropping on wet pavement. She looked up at me slightly annoyed and said, "Are you gonna help or just stand there looking dramatic?" I snapped back and knelt down slowly to pick up her books. "Sorry." I was handling them carefully, like they were sacred things. She noticed. "You okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Something like that. She tilted her head and studied me the way people do when something doesn't quite add up. "Do I know you? You're looking at me like..." "No, you don't know me. You never do." She laughed a little, confused, uncomfortable, trying to make it lighter than it was. That's a really weird thing to say to a stranger. I handed her the last book, held her gaze 1 second longer than I should have. "Yeah, I know." She walked away, and I stood in the rain and let her, because that's what I always do at the beginning. I give her space to exist without the weight of everything I carry. But this time, 3 steps away, she stopped and turned around. In 43 lifetimes, no version of her had ever turned around before. Soft cafe ambiance, rain outside a window. She started finding me. That had never happened before, not once, not in 1,200 years. In her 3rd life, she was a merchant's daughter in Florence. I followed her for 2 years before she ever noticed me. In her 19th life, she was a wartime nurse. She looked directly at me every single day for a year and felt absolutely nothing. But Lena started showing up where I was. At first, I told myself it was coincidence. Then I told myself I was imagining things. Then she sat down across from me in a coffee shop, completely uninvited, completely unbothered, and said the 4 words that nearly destroyed me. Silence. Cup placed gently on a table. Rain outside. "You keep appearing in my life. You keep appearing in mine." She studied me the way she always does, like she's trying to solve something she doesn't have all the pieces to. I had a dream about you last night, which is strange because I don't dream about people I've only met once. What kind of dream? You were holding my hand. We were somewhere cold, a forest, I think, and you kept saying my name like you were terrified I was going to disappear. She paused, and I think I was. Did you disappear? In the dream? I always do. Every time you get close enough to hold on, I'm already gone. She looked at me directly then, really looked. Why does it feel like I'm apologizing to you right now? I didn't answer right away. When I finally did, my voice was barely holding together. Because somewhere inside you, I think you already know. She didn't run. She sat with that answer, let it settle between us like something living. And then she ordered 2 coffees, one for her, one for me, without asking what I wanted, like we had been doing this for years. Because we had. She just didn't remember, but her soul did. For the first time in 43 lifetimes, her soul remembered. Silence, a clock ticking, night settling into a small apartment. I always planned to tell her sooner. Every single life, I told myself, this time you explain it early. This time you don't wait. But the truth is a heavy thing, and every time I tried to say it out loud, I couldn't stand what came after. The way she'd look at me, like I was broken, or dangerous, or both. But Lena found the locket herself, called me at 2 a.m, voice completely calm. The calm terrified me more than screaming ever could. Silence, the weight of 12 centuries inside one small room. She was sitting on her kitchen floor when I got there, locket in her hand, eyes steady, dangerously steady. That's me, in a painting, from the 1300s. Explain that. I didn't look away. I didn't hesitate. Her name was Elia. She liked to sit by the river at dawn. She was afraid of horses but pretended she wasn't. She laughed too loud for someone so small. She died of fever on a Tuesday. I held her hand until she stopped breathing. How do you know that? Because I was there. Lena, I am always there. You have lived 43 lives, different names, different faces, different centuries, but always the same soul. Always you. And every single time, I find you. Her eyes filled, voice dropping to almost nothing. Why don't I remember? My voice fractured, 12 centuries of grief surfacing all at once. I don't know, and that question is the only thing that has kept me alive for 1,200 years. Because if I ever find that answer, maybe you'll finally get to stay. And if I don't? I reached out, touched her face like she was already leaving. Then I will find you again. In whatever life comes next, whatever name you carry, whatever face you're wearing, I will always find you first. Quiet night, soft breathing, distant clock. I knew the signs. I always know the signs. The way she got tired too easily, the headaches she tried to hide from me, the way she'd pause sometimes and stare at nothing, like she was already somewhere I couldn't follow. Her soul was preparing to leave again, and for the first time in 1,200 years, I screamed at the sky. I begged, I bargained, I wept like something feral and completely broken. I said, not this one, not this version of her. She remembered me, she chose me, you cannot take her now. The goddess said nothing. She never does. So I went back to Lena, and I didn't tell her. I loved her, as hard as I knew how, as fast as time would let me, as completely as a man with a breaking heart possibly can.
because that is all I have ever been able to give her. Every single time. All of me, for whatever time she has left. The last night. Deep night silence, the softest breathing, a distant clock. She was half asleep when she spoke, voice soft as a fading signal. Kale, I'm here. I'm right here. Don't lose the luck at this time. She paused, almost gone. I always lose the locket. I said nothing. I just closed her fingers around it. The room was completely quiet. Then she breathed out one last time and whispered, "Find me faster next time." And then she was gone. Just like that. Just like always.
Except this time, I didn't get up for a long time. Because this time she remembered, and somehow that made it so much harder to let go. But I will find her again. I will always find her again. Because she is the only thing in 1,200 years of living worth finding. One heartbeat, then silence. He found her 44 times. Should he find her a 45th? Drop "Find Her" in the comments if you want episode 2.